The cafe was quiet that afternoon. A warm place filled with soft light and the gentle hum of people talking. Lillian Harper sat at a wooden table near the window. She was 32 years old. Her light brown hair was tied back loosely and she wore a simple cream dress that made her look calm and graceful. In front of her was a cup of coffee slowly cooling in the afternoon air. This was not how she imagined her Saturday would feel. She had agreed to a blind date. Her friend had insisted. "You are always taking care of everyone else, Lillian. You deserve a little happiness too." Those words had stayed in her mind. So she came. The cafe smelled like roasted coffee beans and fresh bread. Outside the window people passed by slowly enjoying their day. Lillian checked the time again. He was late. Not just a few minutes late. Almost 30 minutes. She sighed quietly and lifted her cup. Sometimes life teaches you patience in strange ways. When she was younger she believed love arrived quickly and perfectly. Like the stories people tell. But life had already taught her something different. Good things often arrived slowly. Sometimes they arrived in ways you never expected. She was about to take another sip of coffee when the door opened. 3 small girls stepped inside. They were about 4 to 6 years old. Each wearing a bright red sweater. Their tiny shoes made soft tapping sounds on the floor. People at nearby tables noticed them immediately. Children walking into a cafe alone always catches attention. The girls stood close together. Their eyes searched the room carefully. The smallest one held the hand of the older girl beside her. Then the middle girl noticed Lillian. She gently tugged the sleeve of the oldest one. The 3 girls walked slowly toward her table. Lillian blinked in confusion. She had never seen them before. The girls stopped right in front of her. The smallest one looked up first. Her voice was soft but brave. "My dad is sorry he is late." For a moment the words simply hung in the air. Lillian felt her heart pause. She looked at the 3 girls again. Their dark eyes were serious but polite. Their small hands rested on the edge of the table. The oldest girl spoke calmly. "He told us to find the lady sitting alone with coffee. And say he is on the way." People at nearby tables had grown quiet now. Everyone sensed something unusual. Lillian leaned forward gently. "Sweethearts. Are you sure you have the right person?" The middle girl nodded with confidence. "Yes, ma'am. He showed us your picture." Then she carefully pulled a small folded photograph from her sweater pocket. She placed it on the table. Lillian looked down. It was her profile picture. The same photo she had used on the dating site. Her eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Well," she whispered. "I suppose you must be the welcome committee." The girls smiled a little. Lillian gestured to the empty chairs. "Would you like to sit?" They climbed carefully onto the chairs across from her. Now the cafe truly felt quiet. People pretended not to watch. But everyone was listening. Lillian asked softly, "What are your names?" The oldest girl answered first. "My name is Amara. I am 6. The middle girl spoke next. "I am Zuri. I am 5. Then the smallest lifted her chin proudly. "I am Nola. I am 4. Lillian smiled warmly. "Those are beautiful names." The girls relaxed a little. Nola leaned her elbows on the table and studied Lillian's face. "You look nice," she said. Lillian laughed softly. "Thank you, Nola." After a moment she asked, "Where is your father now?" Amara answered politely. "Parking the car. He said we should come inside first. He did not want you to think he forgot." Lillian felt something unexpected in her chest. A mixture of curiosity and concern. It was unusual. A man bringing his daughters to a blind date. But something about the girls felt honest. Not awkward. Not uncomfortable. Just sincere. Nola suddenly asked, "Do you like pancakes?" Lillian blinked. "Yes. Very much actually." Zuri smiled. "Daddy makes pancakes every Sunday." Amara added quietly. "But sometimes he burns them." All three girls giggled. Even people at nearby tables smiled. The tension in the room softened. Lillian noticed how close the girls sat together. How the older sister gently watched the younger two. It reminded her of her own childhood. Growing up with siblings in a small house full of noise and laughter. Back when life felt simple. Back before the world asked so many complicated questions. She asked gently, "Do you girls come to cafes often?" Zuri shook her head. "No. Daddy says coffee is for grown-ups. But today is special." "Why is it special?" Lillian asked. Amara answered honestly. "Because Daddy has not gone on a date in a very long time." Lillian felt the weight of those words. Sometimes children say things with a clarity adults cannot. They tell truth without decoration. Without hesitation. Before she could respond, the cafe door opened again. A tall man stepped inside. He looked around nervously. Then he saw the girls. And Lillian. Relief washed across his face. He walked quickly toward the table. He was about 35 years old. His name was Elijah Brooks. His jacket was slightly wrinkled and he still looked a little out of breath. "I am so sorry," he said. "Traffic was worse than I expected." The girls stood up happily. "Daddy." He placed a gentle hand on each of their shoulders. Then he turned to Lillian. His voice softened. "Thank you for not leaving." Lillian smiled politely. "Your daughters kept me good company." Elijah looked embarrassed. "They insisted on coming. I could not convince them otherwise." Amara crossed her arms. "You said honesty is important, Daddy." He laughed quietly. "Yes, I did." Then he looked back at Lillian. "I lost my wife 3 years ago. For a long time it was just the four of us. Today is the first time I tried something new. Something hopeful." The honesty in his voice filled the space between them. Lillian nodded slowly. "Life can change very quickly," she said. "Sometimes we only realize later that our hearts are still capable of beginning again." The girls listened carefully. Children always listen when adults speak from the heart. The waiter approached and placed 4 cups of hot chocolate on the table. Courtesy of the cafe owner who had quietly watched everything. The girls' eyes sparkled. "Hot chocolate." Nola whispered like it was magic. Elijah looked grateful. "Thank you." The next hour passed slowly. Stories were shared. Laughter appeared naturally. Lillian talked about her work helping elderly neighbors in her community. Elijah spoke about raising his daughters and learning patience in ways he never expected. The girls described school, favorite songs, and of course pancakes. People in the cafe slowly returned to their own conversations. But the warmth at that table remained. At one point Nola looked at Lillian seriously. "Do you think our daddy is nice?" Lillian smiled. "Yes. I think he is trying his best. And sometimes that is the most important thing a person can do." Amara nodded like she understood something important. As the afternoon sun moved across the window, the cafe began to quiet again. Elijah looked at his daughters. "Girls, what do you think? Should Miss Lillian come for pancakes one Sunday?" The girls looked at each other. Then at Lillian. 3 hopeful faces. Lillian laughed softly. "I think that sounds like a wonderful idea." Nola clapped her hands. The moment felt simple, but deeply human. Sometimes life does not send perfect plans. Sometimes it sends 3 small girls in red sweaters, carrying a message of patience, of courage, of second chances. Lillian looked around the cafe one last time. She realized something important. The blind date had not been empty at all. It had simply arrived in a different order. And sometimes the most meaningful connections begin in the most unexpected ways. So if this story warmed your heart today, please take a moment to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts here on the Black Voices. And remember, life still has beautiful surprises waiting for those who choose to stay seated just a little longer.